Question number 1. How did the Cold War begin, in your opinion?
It began with the end of World War II. At that point, we had ended the war rather dramatically with nuking Japan, and the emerging superpowers were us and the Soviet Union. So it's because the Soviet Union was lacking nuclear weapons, they immediately got as many scientists working on that and created their own. And then at that point, it was just a race to see who could have the most nukes. And that was essentially what the Cold War was.
All right. And who did we drop the bomb on, being the atomic bomb?
Japan, Nagasaki, and Hiroshima.
Excellent. All right. And motives for why the war continued?
Everybody wanted power. It was all about power. America wanted power, so did the Soviet Union. And one of us had to lose some for the other to gain some, so fighting.
Well done. All right. What role did communism play?
Communism was the ideology of the Soviet Union, and it was completely at odds with capitalism and created quite a bit of tension on its own, purely from the ideology. Americans thought that communists were godless barbarians, and communists thought Americans were capitalist pigs who were purely after money and didn't have any ethics or moral values. So there's a lot of tension based purely on that. Yeah.
Okay. And what time period did the Cold War take place in?
I guess 1945, the end of the war, and then early 90s.
All right. And what kind of propaganda took place through the Cold War and the atomic bomb, or due to?
There was a lot of propaganda, both sides trying to dehumanize the other in order to make their side more acceptable to their populations. So Americans, like I said before, they made all of the communists appear to be godless barbarians, and vice versa. Communists made Americans look like capitalist pigs with no ethics or moral values, and they're purely after money. And there's all kinds of political ads and speeches by both sides' leadership in order to support that. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And why do you personally think that we dropped the bomb?
To end the war as fast as possible. All the island hopping and like Iwo Jima, there's like Wake Island or something. There's a lot of the South Pacific Islands that we had to go through, and each one was incredibly brutal, with the Japanese entrenched into the island, and you had to land on the beaches, and as soon as you land, you're getting shelled, and it's just an absolutely brutal way to fight a war. And getting as far as we did up to that point lost a lot of people their lives, and the American leadership at the time wasn't willing to sacrifice more people to get to the end of the war, because getting to the same point would have been incredibly brutal and difficult and taken a lot longer. And since we had the technology, it was a simple decision to make for them, honestly. Because if you have that, you're going to use it. And we did.
Excellent. Okay. And why did we want to intimidate Japan?
We wanted to intimidate them to force the surrender, because I believe we had an ultimatum that was stated, and of course they didn't listen to it because of the propaganda. Honestly, there was so much entrenched idealism for each side's country that nothing the other side says is going to be believed. So you had to drop the bomb to show that it was something that we were going to do, that both that we had and that we were going to use it, because frankly it just wouldn't. There's no way the Japanese would have believed it otherwise unless we had actually dropped it, and we had to, so we did.
Okay, and the last question being, how was the bomb used in perpetuating the Cold War?
That's essentially what the Cold War was, just a race to generate as many nuclear weapons as possible. And, after a certain point, the Soviet Union just didn't have any money, and it just collapsed their economy and ruined them. But that's essentially what it came down to, is just who could posture the most and show that they had the most power, because that's all the Cold War was just a fight for power.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Interview 4? Yes, 4. Okay.